I always thought my life with Emily was set in stone. I remember walking into our apartment that night with a smile, telling her, "I bought those paint samples you wanted. We can start on the living room this weekend." She didn't smile back. She just stared at her hands. I felt something twist inside my chest as I asked, "Emily? What's wrong?" She whispered, "We need to talk." Those words felt like cold water running down my spine. I sat across from her and said, "Okay, talk to me. What happened?" She looked up with eyes that didn't feel like they belonged to the woman I loved. She said, "I don't know how to say this without hurting you." My voice cracked as I replied, "Then just say it. Please." She took a long breath and admitted, "I've been feeling confused. I tried to push it away, but I can't anymore." My heart started beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. I leaned forward and whispered, "Confused about what, Emily?" Then she said his name. "Ryan." I felt my whole body freeze. I asked, "Your ex? Why are you talking about him?" She looked down again and whispered, "Because I still love him." The room felt like it collapsed. I couldn't breathe. My voice shook as I said, "Emily, what are you talking about? We're planning our wedding. You told me I was your future." She wiped her tears and said, "I know. But something changed. When I talked to Ryan, I feel alive in a way I can't explain." I shouted, "Alive? And with me you don't." She whispered, "I'm sorry, but I don't." I stood up, shaking. "So what are you saying? Are you leaving me?" She nodded slowly. "I'm going back to him." I stared at her, unable to understand how she could throw away everything so calmly. "Emily, please, at least tell me why. Tell me what I did wrong." She shook her head. "You didn't do anything wrong. You're kind. You're stable. You're everything a person should want. But Ryan makes me feel something wild. Something I can't ignore." I laughed bitterly. "So I'm not exciting enough for you? That's it?" She whispered, "Please don't make this harder." I shouted, "You're breaking our life apart and you want it to be easy?" She flinched and for a moment I felt bad for raising my voice. But then I remembered she was the one walking away. I grabbed my jacket and said, "I need to go. I can't breathe in here." She reached out and said, "Please don't leave angry." I pulled my arm away. There's no other way to leave. When I stepped outside, the air hit me like ice. My legs felt heavy as I walked to my car. I didn't even drive anywhere specific. I just wandered through the streets, trying to make sense of what happened. I kept hearing her voice saying, "He makes me feel alive." Each time it felt like a knife. When I finally got home to my parents' house, they saw my face before I said a word. My mother rushed to me. "What happened?" I whispered, "She left me." My dad asked quietly, "Why?" I choked, "She still loves her ex." My mom hugged me tight and whispered, "You didn't deserve that." My father put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Some people don't value what they have." I didn't answer. I just walked into my old room and shut the door. My mom knocked softly. "Can we talk?" I replied, "Please, not now." I heard her sigh, then walk away. I sat on the floor for hours, holding my head in my hands. Every moment with Emily replayed in my mind, the laughs, the promises, the plans. I whispered, "All of it was a lie, wasn't it?" My phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. "I'm sorry. This is the hardest thing I've ever done." I threw the phone across the bed and shouted, "Hard for you? You destroyed me." My voice echoed off the walls. The next morning my dad knocked and said, "Son, come eat." I answered, "I'm not hungry." He said, "You can't lock yourself in here forever." I whispered, "Just give me time." He sighed and said, "We're here when you're ready." I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling like the world ended. I kept thinking, how do I go back to normal after this? The answer felt simple: I couldn't. The version of me that believed in forever. That man died the moment Emily said she still loved Ryan. But beneath all the pain, another feeling began to grow. A quiet, sharp one. I whispered to myself, if she walked away so easily, I'll learn to walk too. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was the beginning of something new inside me. And I didn't know it then, but that night wasn't just the end of my relationship. It was the death of who I used to be. And the first breath of who I was about to become. The days after Emily left blurred into nights I couldn't remember. I woke to silence, and even the sunlight piercing through my blinds felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Even speaking felt impossible. Every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck as if my throat had learned betrayal firsthand. "Alex, please come outside for a moment," my mother, Margaret, whispered through my door one morning. I didn't answer. "Alex, she tried again a little louder. I want to sit with you. You don't have to talk. I'm fine, I croaked without opening the door. Her sigh carried the weight of worry, but I couldn't meet it. Every corner of this house reminded me of Emily, her laughter in the kitchen, her voice in the hallways, even her shoes by the door. Later, my father, Robert, knocked. Son, pain teaches us who we are, he said gently. You can't hide from it forever. I'm not hiding, I muttered, though my voice betrayed me. I'm just living. Living? He echoed softly. This isn't living, Alex. This is surviving. I closed my eyes and tried to push their words away. Nothing reached me. It was all noise, distant and hollow. Every night, I replayed the same scenes in my head. Emily hugging Ryan in ways she used to hug me, smiling at him like he was the only person in the world who mattered. Her laughter echoed in my mind, sharper than any knife. My stomach churned and a cold, sinking feeling settled in my chest. I tried to send her messages, long, pleading, stupid things, but they stopped. Her number went silent. No replies. Nothing. It was as if she'd erased me from her world entirely. I heard from Sophie once, my little sister. Alex, is she really gone? She asked quietly over the phone. Yes, I said, voice breaking. She's gone and I don't know why. The rumor started next. Whispers at work, in the neighborhood, even from distant relatives. Emily and Ryan were officially back together, everyone said. Every message, every post, every mention cut through me like shards of glass. One evening, I found myself sitting on my bed, phone clutched in my hand. I stared at her last message, the words mocking me. I need to follow my heart, Alex. Please understand. Understand? How could anyone understand the betrayal that felt like fire inside my chest? Margaret knocked gently. Alex, dinner is ready. I made your favorite. I'm not hungry, I whispered. Alex, you have to eat, Robert said, standing behind her. You can't let her actions destroy you. You're stronger than you know. I laughed bitterly. Stronger? Do you even hear yourself? She chose him, Dad. She chose him over me. I was everything to her, and it wasn't enough. You are enough, my mother said, voice trembling. It's not about you, Alex. It's about her. Don't let her mistakes define who you are. Her words barely scratched the surface. I felt unwanted, small, and worthless. Every part of me screamed with emptiness, like I'd been hollowed out from the inside. Late that night, alone in my room, I whispered into the darkness, why wasn't I enough? The words lingered in the air and something in me broke. My hands shook, my chest heaved, and for the first time I let the tears fall. It wasn't a quiet sadness. It was a scream trapped inside a body that had nowhere else to release it. But as I sat there, drowning in my own despair, a tiny spark flickered. It was faint, almost imperceptible beneath the layers of pain. It whispered, you won't stay broken. Not forever. I clenched my fist. The tears continued, but my eyes began to harden. Something was shifting inside me, slow and deliberate. The pain didn't just wound me, it taught me. It showed me the corners of myself I had never explored, the parts that could rise even when crushed. I stood by the window, staring at the dark city outside. I could see a life moving on without me. I could see Emily's smile in my mind, haunting yet powerless over my choice now. I breathed deeply, feeling the spark grow, tiny but relentless. Maybe, I whispered to no one, maybe it's time I stop waiting to be saved. And in that moment I understood. The old Alex, the one who trusted blindly, who loved without caution, who believed in forever with Emily, was gone. In his place something new was emerging. Determined, focused, and unshakable. It wasn't peace yet. It wasn't joy. But it was the beginning. And for the first time in weeks I felt the faintest glimmer of power. The volunteer tech event was crowded, buzzing with energy and chatter, but I felt invisible, like I was watching everything from behind glass. I wasn't there to impress anyone. Mostly I was just trying to keep my mind off Emily and Ryan. My thoughts drifted constantly, but I forced myself to focus on the project in front of me, designing a simple AI interface for a community center. Interesting approach, a deep voice said beside me. I turned to see a man in a tailored suit, gray at the temples, sharp eyes that seemed to cut through me. You think like a CEO. I laughed, bitter and dry. Right. Because heartbreak makes everyone a business genius. He smiled faintly, unoffended. Maybe not a genius yet. But I see strategy. I see potential. Most people here just follow instructions blindly. You ask questions I wouldn't have thought of. I frowned, skeptical. Who are you? Adrian Cole, he said, extending a hand. I run Cole Innovations. And I'm telling you, you have instincts most people don't discover until decades in business. I shook his hand, feeling the weight of it, the confidence in his grip. I'm just Alex, I said, trying to dismiss it. And honestly, I don't think much of my instincts lately. Heartbreak? He asked quietly. I froze. You know? I see it in your eyes, Adrian said. Pain can destroy you or it can build you. You choose. I didn't answer right away. I looked down at my hands, calloused from a desk job I had once loved, now feeling useless. I wanted to tell him it wasn't just heartbreak. It was betrayal. It was humiliation. It was everything I'd worked for, ripped away in a single conversation with Emily. Instead I said, and if I can't choose? Then someone else will decide for you, he replied, calm, unshakable. I've seen it too many times. People let their misery define them. But you have the chance to take control. He gestured toward the building. Walk with me. We moved through the crowd and he asked about my projects, my approach, my decisions. He listened in a way I hadn't experienced before. He didn't judge me. He didn't pity me. He simply observed, absorbing every word, every hesitation, every spark of thought. Alex, he said finally after I explained my AI interface for the community center. You're thinking about efficiency, sustainability, user engagement, all in one glance. Most people would focus on just one. That's why I said you think like a CEO. I smirked, though it felt hollow. So what? I got dumped by the girl I loved and now I'm a business prodigy? Not because of heartbreak, Adrian said firmly. Because you survived it. Most people crumble, Alex. They let pain define their limits. You're standing here, still thinking, still creating. That's power. I laughed again, quieter this time, not entirely bitter. You make it sound easy. It's not, he said, shaking his head. But it's possible. And here's my offer. Come work for me. Cole Innovations. I don't care about your past. I care about what you can do now. Show me you're serious and I'll show you what you're worth. I blinked. Wait, you mean a real job? Yes, he said, eyes sharp, unwavering. You can stay here helping small projects, or you can grow. You want revenge against life? Or do you want results? I can give you results. I wanted to laugh. Sounded absurd. I don't even know you. You'll know me soon enough, Adrian said with a faint grin. Or you'll regret not taking this chance. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed both yes and no. Could I trust him? Could I trust anyone right now? My heart whispered caution, but my mind was hungry. Hungry for something new, something that wasn't tainted by Emily or Ryan. Okay, I said finally. My voice sounded foreign to me, calm yet determined. I'll do it. I'll show you I'm serious. Adrian nodded once, approving. Good. Tomorrow we start. I don't just want an employee, Alex. I want someone who thinks beyond limits. Someone who can see opportunity where others see failure. I walked away from that conversation feeling different. Not healed. Not yet. But something had shifted. A tiny door had opened in the future I thought was closed forever. For the first time since Emily left, I felt the faintest glimmer of purpose. A direction. A way forward. That night, lying in bed, I didn't replay Emily and Ryan in my mind. Instead, I imagined Cole Innovations, the projects, the possibilities. I imagined proving something, not to Emily, not to anyone else, but to myself. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken. I felt alive. The first morning at Cole Innovations hit me like a tidal wave. The office buzzed with conversations, keyboards clicking, screens flashing numbers and charts I barely understood. Adrian Cole walked in, sharp suit, sharper eyes, and the air seemed to change as soon as he appeared. Alex, he said, voice firm. I hope you didn't come here to sit quietly and observe. You're here to act. I'm ready, I said, though my stomach twisted nervously. Good, he replied. Then stop playing safe. Build something. Show me you can create, not just follow. The hours that followed were brutal. Adrian tested me constantly, questioning my every assumption, challenging my methods, debating outcomes with an intensity one hadn't experienced in my life. You can't just rely on what you know, he said sharply, pointing at a complex project plan I had drafted. Think bigger. Think 10 steps ahead. Imagine consequences before they happen. I'm considering long-term growth, I argued, trying to defend my work. Long-term growth doesn't matter if you fail tomorrow, Adrian said. Risk intelligently, Alex. You're smarter than this hesitation. Each day pushed me further. I stayed late, barely ate, and even my sleep became a structured schedule. 2 hours of rest, 6 of focus. My mind sharpened like a blade. Every problem became a puzzle to solve. Every failure was analyzed, rewritten, improved. You're improving faster than I expected, Adrian said one evening, reviewing a presentation I had crafted for investors. You're not the same man who walked in. I smiled faintly, but inside I felt fire. Fire I hadn't felt since Emily left. She was no longer the center of my world. Her memory existed, yes, but now as a shadow, subtle, a reminder not to let betrayal define me. I found myself making small changes outside the office too. My wardrobe became sharper, more confident. My posture changed. My words gained weight and precision. Even my finances grew with careful investments Adrian taught me to analyze. One night, while revising a software rollout strategy, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily appeared. I ignored it. Another from Ryan followed. Ignored. I realized I didn't feel hurt anymore. Their lives were no longer my concern. My concern was me, my growth, my future. Adrian noticed the change too. You carry yourself differently, he said one day as we walked through the office floor. People notice. They respect you. But respect without skill is empty. Keep learning, keep building. I nodded, understanding him fully. I wasn't just learning strategy or business. I was learning myself. My strengths, my resilience, my ability to rise from heartbreak without losing direction. Every skill I honed at Cole Innovations was a brick in a new foundation. Alex, take this project, Adrian said, handing me a folder. Lead it. You'll need to coordinate the team, present to investors, handle challenges. Everything you've learned so far, put it into action. I studied the folder, heart racing. This was more responsibility than I'd ever had. And yet it felt natural. I'll handle it, I said, voice steady. I know you will, Adrian replied. Remember, mistakes are lessons, not failures. But hesitation will cost you. Move decisively. Over the next few weeks, I led my first major project. Every decision I made was calculated, yet bold. Every obstacle was a chance to test my judgment, my patience, my leadership. Employees began coming to me for guidance. Investors asked for my input. I realized Adrian's words were true. I was not the same man. I was sharper, smarter, stronger. Late at night, when the office cleared and the city lights glimmered outside, I sometimes caught myself thinking about Emily. Not with longing, not with anger, but with clarity. She was a shadow now, a shadow that pushed me forward rather than pulled me back. I had no desire for revenge or confrontation. My motivation was transformation, not destruction. Adrian walked by, noticing me staring out the window. Thinking too much about the past? He asked. No, I said honestly. I'm planning for the future. Good, he said, clapping my shoulder. That's where winners live. Not in what broke them, but in what they're building. That night, as I left the office, exhaustion mixed with a strange exhilaration. I had survived Emily's betrayal, Ryan's presence, and my own doubts. And now I was becoming something more. Something unshakable. Something unstoppable. The office was quieter than usual that morning, but I sensed tension in the air. Employees moved cautiously, exchanging glances, whispering softly. Adrian Cole strode in, his presence commanding the room instantly. Everyone, may I have your attention? He said. Voices hushed. I straightened in my chair, feeling my pulse quicken. I have an announcement, Adrian continued. I am retiring from active management effective today. Gasps filled the room. My heart raced, unsure if I had heard him correctly. Effective immediately? Someone asked, voice trembling. Yes, Adrian replied firmly. And I have chosen my successor. His eyes met mine, unwavering. Alex, you earned this not because you suffered, but because you transformed. The room went silent. My mind refused to process the words. Transform? Me? CEO? It sounded surreal. Are you serious? I asked, trying to mask the shock in my voice. Absolutely, Adrian said. You have proven your vision, your intelligence, your discipline. You lead, Alex. Take this company forward. I nodded slowly, words failing me. Employees started clapping, some standing, some smiling at me with admiration. My cheeks burned, a mixture of pride and disbelief. Alex, welcome to your new role, said one senior manager, shaking my hand firmly. We've watched you grow. You deserve this. Thank you, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside. The next few days were a whirlwind. Reporters called for interviews, eager to capture the story of the young man who rose from heartbreak to lead one of the most respected companies in the tech world. Investors emailed requests for meetings. Employees sought my advice, my approval, my vision. Everywhere I went, I felt the weight of responsibility, but also the thrill of opportunity. One afternoon, my parents visited my new penthouse. Mom's eyes filled with tears as she looked around, taking in the spacious living area, the city view, the subtle elegance of the furniture. "Alex," she said softly, voice trembling, "your father and we are so proud of you." Dad nodded, clapping my shoulder. "Son, look at what you've done. Look at who you've become." I smiled faintly, feeling a strange warmth inside. I couldn't have done it without everything I learned, including from the worst moments. Mom hugged me tightly. "You turned pain into power, Alex. That's remarkable." That night, after the last meeting ended, I stood in front of the mirror in my penthouse. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the broken, betrayed man who Emily had left. It was someone stronger, sharper, and unshakable. I whispered her name, testing the weight of it. "Emily, look at who you pushed me to become." No anger. No bitterness. Only calm. Deep, unwavering calm. A strange satisfaction that came from knowing I had conquered my past without letting it consume me. I walked through the penthouse, each step echoing softly. My parents' words lingered in my mind. They had seen the fire, the heartbreak, the struggle, but they were witnessing the result of resilience, discipline, and focus. Messages from Emily appeared on my phone, short, hesitant texts. I hope you're happy," one said. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. Happiness, I realized, didn't come from vengeance or proving her wrong. It came from living my life fully with integrity and strength. Adrian stopped by one evening for a quiet chat. "You've handled this transition better than I imagined," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Most would crumble under scrutiny, under responsibility. You didn't." "I learned from you," I replied. "And from my own mistakes. From my own pain." He nodded approvingly. "Remember, leadership is about vision, patience, and clarity. Not control. You've got all three. Now make them your habit, not just your talent." I looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city lights. They sparkled like reminders that the world was wide and full of opportunity. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and doubt. Now I was standing on the other side of it all, a man forged by every trial. Emily, Ryan, and the past, they were fragments of memory, no longer anchors. My life was mine entirely. I had rebuilt myself from the ashes of loss, stronger than before, ready to face any challenge, any obstacle, any future that came my way. And as I sat at my desk that night, reviewing plans and visions for the company, I realized something profound. Revenge had never been my goal. Transformation had. Freedom had. And now I had it all. For the first time in years, I smiled without hesitation, without shadow. I was free. I was the CEO, yes, but more importantly, I was myself. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen froze me. Emily. My thumb hovered over the notification, heart thudding in a strange mix of curiosity and caution. I had not heard from her in years. Her message read, "Can we talk?" I stared at it, unmoving. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that could pull me backward if I let them. I didn't reply. Not yet. A week passed. My days were filled with board meetings, strategy sessions, and investor calls. Then, out of nowhere, the receptionist's voice cut through my concentration. "Mr. Alex, Emily Hale is here to see you." My stomach tightened. I didn't expect her, hadn't planned for this confrontation, but now she was here, standing in the lobby of the company I had built from heartbreak and determination. I walked toward the elevator, trying to maintain composure. When she saw me, her mouth opened slightly. "You? How?" Her voice was soft, barely audible. Shock, disbelief, and something like regret flashed across her face. "I'm the CEO, Emily," I said calmly, leading her into my office. "Sit." She obeyed, looking around the room as if it had always belonged to someone else. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied back neatly, but her eyes, tired, regretful, and haunted, told a story no outfit could hide. I didn't know you'd," she faltered. I didn't think. You didn't think I'd survive?" I asked, voice steady. No accusation, no bitterness. Just a quiet observation. She shook her head slowly. "No. I didn't think you'd come back this strong. This powerful." I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands. "Emily, power wasn't my goal. Survival was. Transformation was. Revenge was never necessary. I built this life for myself, not against anyone." Tears welled in her eyes. "I ruined everything," she whispered. "Ryan, he cheated on me. He left me, Alex. My finances, my career, everything collapsed. I thought getting back with him would make me happy, and instead, I lost everything. You were the one who deserved me, and I was blind. Her words hit me, a faint echo of old pain. But I didn't let it break me. I had learned how to stand, how to absorb hurt without letting it consume me. I see, I said softly. And now? She took a deep breath, trembling. Now, I want to fix things. I don't know how, but I want to apologize. I want, maybe, to make amends. I studied her, watching her shoulders slump, her hands fidget nervously. I remembered the nights I had spent alone, replaying her confession, feeling every fragment of betrayal. But that version of me was gone. Emily, I said slowly, I won't lie. Part of me remembers every word, every action, every choice. But part of me has grown beyond it. I don't hate you. I don't even envy you. I just live my life. She sniffled, tears spilling onto her cheeks. I was selfish. I thought I needed Ryan, and I hurt you in the worst way. I see that now. Please, Alex. I never wanted to ruin you. I survived, Emily, I said. I rebuilt myself. That's the truth of my life now. You don't get to undo it. You only get to understand it. She nodded, wiping her face. I just needed to tell you. To finally admit it. You deserved honesty. I looked at her, at the woman I once loved, now broken by her own choices. Honesty is not enough to fix the past, but it can be a step for your own life. Learn from it. Move forward. Don't repeat mistakes. I don't know if I can, she whispered. I lost everything. Then start with something small, I said. Acknowledgement, responsibility, rebuilding. You're stronger than you think. But your path is yours alone. My path is mine. She nodded again, quieter this time, as if finally hearing the message. I should go, she said. I won't bother you again. I just needed you to know. You've said enough, I replied. Calm, collected, unshaken. I had faced my past, and now I had no chains left to bind me. She stood slowly, lingering for a moment, as if hoping for something more, something impossible. Then she walked away, leaving the office, and my life, exactly as it should be. I exhaled, finally letting the tension leave my shoulders. I had felt the old pain, the sting of betrayal, but I had also felt the strength I never had before. I had become the man who could endure, who could transform, who could lead. And for the first time in years, I smiled without shadows. Freedom didn't come from revenge. It came from growth, from clarity, from choosing myself first. The office was quiet, the city lights flickering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Emily stood near the door, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes red from crying. She had come again, unannounced, carrying the weight of regret on her shoulders. Alex, please, can we talk? She whispered, voice trembling. I didn't respond immediately. I leaned back in my chair, studying her, measuring her presence. My calm exterior hid the memories that still lingered, but I had learned to face them without falling apart. I've thought about everything, she began, taking a hesitant step forward. I know I hurt you more than I can ever explain. And I want to make it right. I didn't move. My eyes met hers, steady, unflinching. Emily, this isn't about making it right anymore. Time has passed. I've moved forward. You need to understand that the man you knew, he doesn't exist anymore. She shook her head, desperation filling her expression. I miss him, Alex. I miss the man you were, the one I left behind. I know I made a terrible mistake. I know, I interrupted softly, my voice calm but firm. I felt everything that night you left. Betrayal, confusion, heartbreak. I watched the person I loved walk away for someone else. I was shattered, Emily. But I didn't stay shattered. I rebuilt myself. She blinked, tears spilling down her cheeks. I wish I could undo it all. I wish I could take back every word, every choice, every hurt I caused you. I've realized now, you deserved so much better than me. I leaned forward slightly, resting my elbows on the desk. And that realization, Emily, it's too late. I forgave, I accepted, and I grew. The man you hurt is gone, replaced by someone who doesn't need your approval or presence to feel complete. Her lips quivered and she reached out tentatively. Alex, please. Just one chance. One moment. I'll prove. I held up my hand, stopping her gently. No, Emily. Don't touch me. Don't mistake my past love for permission to enter my present. I don't hate you. But I don't belong with you. That chapter of my life is closed. She pulled back, trembling, the reality settling in. So, this is goodbye, she asked, voice barely audible, almost pleading. I nodded once, deliberately, letting the weight of finality hang between us. Yes. Goodbye. She swallowed, tears falling freely now. She turned slowly toward the door, her steps hesitant, as if each one carried the burden of every mistake she had made. She glanced back once, eyes locking with mine, searching for a trace of the man she once knew, hoping perhaps to find a spark of forgiveness or longing. I remained seated, watching her carefully. No spark lingered. Only strength, calm, and the quiet satisfaction of someone who had survived heartbreak and emerged whole. The door closed behind her, a soft click echoing in the empty office. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was mine. It belonged to me. My heart was no longer chained by the past, no longer haunted by betrayal or regret. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension leave my shoulders. The man who had once been broken, who had once begged for explanations and pleaded for love, had transformed into someone capable of letting go without anger, without resentment. The city below continued its hum, oblivious to the quiet drama that had just concluded. And I realized finally that freedom isn't about revenge, isn't about punishment, isn't about holding grudges. It's about choosing yourself, even when the past begs for your attention. I walked to the window, looking out at the skyline that stretched endlessly. Lights shimmered like distant stars, and for the first time in years, I smiled without shadows clouding it. Emily's memory would remain, a faint echo of the man I used to be and the love I had once known. But it would no longer dictate my choices. It would not define my future. I whispered to the empty office, to the city, to myself, I choose me. And with that, I turned away from the window, away from the past, away from the pain. A new chapter awaited, a life built from ashes, strength, and self-discovery. I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, and now I was whole, untouchable by what once haunted me. The final goodbye was not just for Emily, it was for the man I had been. The man who needed her validation, who had been weak, who had let heartbreak define him. He was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, wiser, and free. And for the first time, I truly believed that some endings are beginnings and some goodbyes are gifts. The city stretched below me, a glittering mosaic of lights and movement. From my penthouse balcony, I could see the pulse of life, unstoppable and indifferent. Months had passed since Emily appeared in my office, begging, crying, and fading away. Since then, everything had changed, not because of her but because of me. I let out a slow breath, feeling the cool air brush my face. The memories were still there, every heartbreak, every betrayal, but they no longer chained me. I had built my life from the fragments she left behind, turning pain into purpose. Footsteps approached behind me. Alex. Adrian's voice was steady, warm, filled with approval. I turned, seeing his familiar presence, the mentor who had guided me when I was broken. You've done it, he said, eyes scanning the skyline as if seeing my accomplishments reflected in the city itself. You built something powerful. Something no one could have imagined when you first walked through my door. I allowed myself a small smile. It wasn't easy. There were moments I thought I'd fail. Moments I wanted to quit. But I didn't. Adrian nodded. You didn't? And that's why you're here now. Not just in this office, not just in this building, but here, he said, tapping my chest lightly, in yourself. You found strength you didn't know you had. I looked back at the city, letting the glow of the lights remind me of every late night, every challenge, every lesson. I see that now. I see that Emily, she didn't ruin my life. She redirected it. Without her betrayal, I might have never pushed myself. I might have stayed small, waiting, hoping. But pain forced me to grow. He smiled, a rare, approving grin. And grow you did. You turned your heartbreak into vision. Your anger into discipline. Your sadness into strategy. I'm proud of what you've become. I didn't answer immediately. My thoughts drifted to my parents. Mom had been the constant, gentle presence knocking on my door saying, "Please come outside," when I shut myself in. Dad had taught me resilience even when I refused to hear it. Mom's soft voice echoed in my memory, "I always believed in you, Alex. Even when you didn't believe in yourself." I turned to see her standing there now, eyes misty, arms open. I stepped forward and hugged her tightly. "I know, Mom. I see it now. And I finally feel it." She pulled back, cupping my face, smiling. "You've become a man I'm proud of, Alex. Not just for what you've achieved, but for who you've become. Strong, kind, and unshakable." I swallowed, holding back the surge of emotion. "Thank you. For everything. For believing when I couldn't. For letting me find my own way." Adrian cleared his throat softly, drawing my attention. And now you're free. Free from the past, free from regret. You've taken control, built your empire, and discovered who you are. What you do next, that's entirely up to you. I looked back over the balcony, the first hints of dawn brushing the sky with gold and pink. I whispered to myself, letting the words solidify my resolve, I choose myself now. The phrase felt like a shield, a declaration, a promise. Not just to survive, not just to succeed, but to live fully as the man I had become. I was no longer the one betrayed, the one left behind, the one defined by someone else's choices. I was Alex, the billionaire CEO, the man who turned pain into power, heartbreak into opportunity. Mom reached for my hand, her touch grounding me. Adrian rested a hand on my shoulder, steadying, proud. I looked between them, realizing that this moment, was the culmination of every trial, every sleepless night, every moment I doubted myself. And yet, it was only the beginning. I allowed the sunrise to wash over me, feeling warmth, clarity, and the quiet thrill of victory. Not over anyone else but over the past. Not over Emily, not over Ryan, not over anyone who had tried to define my life. I had claimed it myself. I stepped back from the balcony, feeling the weight of freedom, strength, and completeness. My empire, my life, my choices, they were mine. And I knew now that happiness didn't come from revenge, from proving someone wrong, or from anyone's validation. It came from within. I smiled softly, glancing at Adrian and Mom. It's time, I said. Time to live fully. No shadows, no ghosts, no regrets. Adrian nodded. Mom squeezed my hand once more. And I turned back toward the city, the rising sun, and the future. This was my life, my victory, my peace. And I had chosen it, fully, entirely, and without looking back.